Hello everyone, welcome to the Buzz the Prey Manga. Today we continue the latest Global Freeze chapter, rewritten and edited by me in English for a smooth reading experience. All visuals and story flow are personally edited to give you the best manga style storytelling. Support the original creator by checking the official manga. So let's dive right into the today's chapter.
Chapter 2581 Death Star 1. Exploration on Mars is far more complicated than they imagined. The surface appears to be a vast expanse of red sand, but once you drill down, you discover that the geological layers here are extremely inconsistent. In some places, it is loose sedimentary rock. In others, it is a hard plate like igneous rock, and in still others, it is like glass that has been instantly solidified by high temperature. This indicates that there was once extreme geological activity here. As for disregarding everything and directly bringing a large area of mining areas into the alternate dimension, that is obviously impossible. Because a round trip to Mars takes 2 months, Zhang Yi must make the most of his extra-dimensional space. Therefore, it is essential to accurately locate rich mineral deposits, rather than indiscriminately collecting them. Moreover, given the suspicion that ancient civilizations exist on Mars, they dare not excavate too recklessly. Zhang Yi instructed the exploration team to pay attention to any traces of human activity, especially regarding Freeman's team. Looking at the geological profile, Yang Xinxin couldn't help but exclaim, "This planet definitely once had life. It was once teeming with life, and for a very long time." Fortunately, the mechanical legion that Zhang Yi brought soon came in handy. The mechanical life forms responsible for engineering construction and combat on Earth were reprogrammed to adapt to the Martian environment. They were also equipped with dust filters and low-pressure resistance systems. One by one, they drove their tracks like a swarm of giant metal beetles into the depths of the canyon. Their work efficiency is extremely high. They don't need oxygen, they don't need to sleep, and they don't complain about the strong winds on Mars. They just drill wherever there are mineral veins. Standing on a makeshift command platform, Zhang Yi looked at the constantly flashing coordinates on the ground and was actually in a pretty good mood. The iron ore reserves are unbelievably large. He tossed a datasheet to Liu Karen. If we brought this back to Earth, a single refinement would be enough for 50 years of industrial expansion. The key is that it doesn't cost much. Liu Karen's eyes lit up too. No need to compete with alien races for resources, and no need to worry about transport lines being intercepted. It's truly a perfect mining planet. Pity. Zhang Yi then changed the subject, saying, "What I really want is nowhere to be found." What he wanted was not ordinary iron ore, not silicon, not aluminum, and not titanium. What he wanted were the rare elements essential for the advanced technologies of the Ahen race: high-density energy-conducting metals, superconducting lattice-core materials, and energy memory materials. Especially the kind of energy-locking metal that can contain the energy of an antimatter bomb and prevent it from leaking prematurely. There are hardly any of those left on Earth. They're mostly held by ancient civilizations. Earth's energy structure is very similar to an old movie called The Platform. It's about a vertical prison where elevators lower a large table of food down layer by layer. Therefore, the further along the prisoner went, the worse the food became. Similarly, the most precious resources on Earth have already been almost completely exploited by the previous 5 generations. All that was left for them were the lowest grade of fossil fuels. Liu Karen lay on the control panel, accessing the Mechanical Legion's report log, her expression somewhat troubled. The shallow outer layers have been scanned, and they are basically iron, nickel, a small amount of cobalt, and some weathered water-bearing minerals. That's impossible. There aren't that many signs of mining on Mars. Could our previous assessment have been wrong? She looked at Zhang Yi and asked, "How about we drill a little deeper?" Zhang Yi thought for a moment and nodded. Dig deeper, especially in places where the energy reaction is unstable. If Mars had ancient civilizations like Earth, their artifacts must be buried deep inside. The shallow ones have long been eroded by wind and sand. As a result, more than a dozen heavy mechanical life forms simultaneously submerged. They resemble a group of metallic vines taking root inside Mars, carrying probes and cutters. drilling down into the canyon's strata. That's the good thing about mechanical life forms. They can operate normally even when they're deep underground, at depths of 10,000 meters. Less than 2 hours later, the first news that came back was not about the rare metal, but a scene that silenced everyone. Abnormal substances detected. The engineering-type mechanical life form provided feedback, and Zhang Yi and the others immediately looked over. The scene depicts a dark, bluish underground space. There was no naturally formed cave curvature there, but rather a very neat triangular slope. It appeared to be some kind of metal, dark purple, smooth and flat. The metal surface also has regular patterns, resembling an ancient energy channel. When Zhang Yi saw it, he felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if he had seen it somewhere before. Report: we have confirmed that we have unearthed a man-made structure, which is 100% not naturally formed. The mechanical life form's voice was cold, yet it was also lowered slightly. The shape is suspected to be a cone structure, and the material is a high-density metal alloy, which does not match the known natural metal materials of Earth. Zhang Yi's eyes lit up immediately, and he perked up instantly. However, he didn't rush over. Instead, he cautiously said, "Don't touch it," and immediately conduct a survey within a 10-kilometer radius to check for any signs of life. He had to make sure there was no danger around. Receive. The engineering machinery quickly began digging and exploring the surrounding area. It was half an hour later that Zhang Yi received a clear response. No traces of life were found in the rock strata. Aren't there any microorganisms either? There are no cells that constitute life. Zhang Yi breathed a sigh of relief. It seems this planet is really close to becoming a dead star, because once life forms exist here, even if they deliberately hide, they cannot make all the microorganisms in the soil disappear. That would be an act that destroys the life of the entire planet. No one would dig their own grave. Zhang Yi also began to wonder. Could it be that Mars is really dead? But how did Elon Freeman and his team disappear? Despite these doubts, Zhang Yi still decided to go and take a look at the man-made metal object. Zhang Yi left Fatty Sue, Uncle Yu, and others outside to continue overseeing the exploration team's work. He then led Lu Karen, Yang Xinxin, and the others directly down the excavated passage. Inside the passage, you can still see rock layers cut open by intense heat, with the edges showing a molten, dark brown color, indicating that the mechanical legion used extremely high power to create this opening. About 7 or 8 kilometers down, across the distance between two spatial traversals, a huge cavity suddenly appeared before us. When Zhang Yi finally saw the neat and ornate purple structure clearly, his eyes widened involuntarily. It was a pyramid, a purple pyramid. Chapter 2582 Death Star 2. Zhang Yi had seen this kind of thing countless times. A large industrial facility used by an ancient civilization to collect fragments of ether. However, this was the highest level he had ever seen. The last time he saw something similar was outside the Dragon Kingdom below the Qinling Mountains. Surprisingly, I found almost the exact same thing here. No one knows how many years it has been buried, but it still looks brand new, with no trace of erosion on its surface. In fact, when illuminated by the lights of the engineering machinery, it reflects an eerie glow. The light flowed and danced along the intricate patterns on its surface. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and, instead of rushing closer, called out to Ling. Ling, in your opinion, what level of civilization could build such an energy pyramid? Anyway, he can't tell. Ling glanced at it and then nodded silently. The level of civilization is very high. Although her tone was calm, the fact that she could give such a high evaluation, given her status, was enough to show that a super powerful civilization did indeed exist on Mars. Zhang Yi narrowed her eyes, feeling a little nervous. Could this civilization still exist? What if something happens to it? He started to get a little worried. But Yang Xinxin reminded him, if such a civilization really exists on Mars, they should have shown themselves when we first landed. Zhang Yi suddenly realized, that makes sense. Now that the Creator's rules and restrictions have been lifted, if there truly is a super civilization here, they will inevitably consider Mars their territory. Their spaceship had already been attacked or driven away when it got close. Therefore, this is a lost civilization. Ling said calmly, "What's so strange about that? In the 4.6 billion years since the birth of humankind, countless races have disappeared over time. The time between two eras can be hundreds of millions of years, or even billions of years. A civilization that is extremely powerful may decline after reaching its peak for any reason. Even without external causes, it is perfectly normal for a company to perish due to internal strife." She paused, then continued, "This is also part of what the creator wanted to observe." Zhang Yi's eyes widened rapidly as he suddenly thought of human experiments on mice. Because he always thought from a human perspective, he almost forgot the original purpose for which the universe was created. The creator shaped humankind to observe the growth, decline, and behavior of their people. "It's too complicated. I'm too lazy to think about it." Zhang Yi shook his head. What era or not? They're all hundreds of millions of years. He couldn't be bothered to think about such grand questions. After confirming that there is no danger nearby, Zhang Yi stared at the purple pyramid, thought for a while, and then looked at Ling beside him. "Go and check if there's anything unusual about this thing." Zhang Yi clearly saw that Ling gave him a disdainful glare. After absorbing a large number of ether fragments, she became more and more human-like, and Zhang Yi could confirm that she possessed her own thoughts. "Ahem, I don't think my request is too much, do I?" Zhang Yi said with a smile. A being with an ability index of 55,000 points is quite formidable even in ancient civilizations. Yet they're so timid, truly. She didn't finish her sentence, but what she wanted to express was very clear. Zhang Yi didn't feel embarrassed at all. Better safe than sorry. Ling walked up to the giant pyramid and reached out her jade-like hand to touch its surface. A streak of purple light flashed briefly and then disappeared without a trace, leaving no further reaction. A large amount of data was rapidly flowing through Ling's eyes. She quickly finished the probe, turned around, and said directly to Zhang Yi, "This is a stellar-level energy harvester." Stellar-level energy harvester? Zhang Yi and Lu Karen looked completely bewildered, yet also incredibly excited. "I don't know what it is, but it sounds pretty cool." Yang Xinxin, however, said with a very serious look in her eyes, "Ling, do you mean that this pyramid can harness the power of stars?" "So, you mean solar energy?" After Yang Xinxin gave a concise explanation, Zhang Yi understood immediately. Solar energy? Photovoltaics. He instantly lost interest. This purple pyramid is enormous, probably over 200 meters high. But how much benefit can solar energy harvesting bring? He rolled his eyes at Ling helplessly. "You were talking so big, I almost thought I'd found a treasure." Ling, seemingly too lazy to pay attention to Zhang Yi, said to him indifferently, "Try putting it in the sun." Zhang Yi was skeptical, but he still put the pyramid away, and the group quickly returned to the ground. Zhang Yi took the pyramid out and placed it on the sand. The atmosphere here is extremely thin, so the sunlight is quite intense. The purple pyramid, which had remained hidden from the world for countless years, began to shimmer with arcs of light like electricity the moment it came into existence. The next moment, Zhang Yi and the others witnessed a scene that left them speechless. Because the light in the entire area suddenly dimmed, the sky seemed to form a giant funnel, and the intense sunlight was concentrated on the pyramid. The light was intense, and the purple pyramid quickly became transparent. Surface energy fluctuations have been detected. The light energy harvesting rate is over 95%. Yang Xinxin was taken aback. "It's absorbing solar energy from outside?" "It seems so, but it can actually distort sunlight?" "That's incredible." Ling spoke up at this moment. "This is a material that only advanced civilizations would use." Her voice was still flat, but this time there was a hint of approval in it. It seems that in her opinion, this technology is only just okay. This metal is designed to operate for extended periods in low-energy environments. Your solar energy technology can only collect data from the surface. It can absorb stray radiation, geothermal reflection, and even reintegrate certain particle streams into energy. For truly advanced civilizations, the energy they can utilize is that of the entire universe. And this civilization on Mars is only capable of making significant use of the solar system's energy. It's just SOSO. Hearing Ling's indifferent words, Zhang Yi was extremely shocked. He saw sunlight pouring into the purple pyramid like a funnel, gathering all the solar radiation energy. Yang Xinxin said emphatically, "The civilization on Mars has already reached the threshold of a Type 2 civilization. A Type 1 civilization represents the ability to mobilize and utilize the resources of the entire planet. Modern humans and most ancient civilizations in the world today are at this level. A Type 2 civilization, on the other hand, means that it can control all the energy of a star." Chapter 2583 remains one. The application of stellar energy is merely a theoretical concept for the sixth generation of humanity. For example, a Dyson sphere is made by encasing the entire sun in a special material, which allows it to absorb all the energy emitted by the sun. This is clearly unrealistic because it's impossible to do with all the material from the other planets in the entire solar system combined. However, for 6 generations with limited imagination, this was the only method they could think of. However, today, Zhang Yi and his team witnessed a completely new method, the attraction and plunder of solar radiation. It was able to distort sunlight, or rather, guide radiant energy and concentrate it on the purple pyramid. Even Lu Karen was astonished when she saw such advanced technology. She calculated the energy harvesting efficiency of the purple pyramid and found that the solar radiation energy collected every second was equivalent to 1.2 tons of coal. "It's terrifying." Lu Karen clicked her tongue in amazement and murmured, "We always think about mining minerals, but we forget that the energy source of most fossil fuels is the sun." Pointing to the enormous purple pyramid, she said to Zhang Yi, "This stellar-level energy harvesting device is equivalent to more than 3,000 large-scale solar power plants." Yang Xinxin glanced at it, and even someone as calm as her couldn't help but take a deep breath. Although both utilize solar energy, the principles are completely different. The utilization of solar energy on Earth is simply like boiling water. But this pyramid directly absorbs the energy from solar radiation, with a conversion rate as high as 95% and almost no waste. Some have joked that no matter how advanced technology becomes, human history has progressed for so many years, and we still can't live without boiling water and throwing stones. After all, almost all engines in this era were based on the principle of steam engines. It wasn't until the advent of the era of superpowers that, due to the birth of superhumans and the emergence of ancient civilizations, progress began at a snail's pace toward a more advanced civilization. "Brother, we're rich now." Lu Karen examined the pyramid and murmured, "It's unimaginable if 10,000 of these stellar energy harvesters were built on a single planet, all facing the sun." Zhang Yi quickly realized this problem as well. The territory of Huashu Kingdom is now very large, about 5 times the size it used to be. Moreover, because the population is concentrated in cities, 90% of the area is uninhabited. If we can install a large number of these stellar-level energy harvesters, then the future energy shortage problem can be completely solved. "This thing is the biggest thing I've gained from coming to Mars?" Zhang Yi scratched his head, feeling that it was all a bit unreal. Indeed, technology is the primary productive force. This may seem absurd, but it is undeniably true. It's like having a desktop computer that's more efficient than 10,000 accountants using an abacus. A stellar-level civilization dealing with a planetary-level civilization is truly a case of dimensional reduction. Yang Xinxin said, "The important thing is to master the technology of this energy harvesting. It can collect not only solar energy, but also geothermal energy. If the technology is applied to spacecraft, long-term space travel can be sustained without worrying about energy shortages." As Zhang Yi listened to their conversation, his gaze toward the purple pyramid grew increasingly bright. "In other words, this is priceless, right?" "Certainly," Lu Karen answered affirmatively. Ling's expression remained indifferent. She wasn't particularly interested in this level of technology. She glanced at the metal tower once more, as if checking its material, before looking away. The level of civilization here is no longer what you call Martian natives. This is a civilization that has mastered efficient energy conversion, a planet-level self-sustaining system, and the ability to transform all knowledge into structures. It's at least a level that won't appear until after the Third Age. Zhang Yi asked, "You mean back then there was also a group of beings on Mars, like the Ahen race, who escaped Earth and migrated to Mars?" Ling shook her head. "The technology of the Ahen tribe is not that backward. Don't joke around. But in subsequent civilizations, there will always be those who want to become the Ahen race. They saw their destiny as being shrouded by the Creator, so they tried to establish a sustainable system inside a planet outside Earth to escape the next purge. And then what happened? You've seen the results. The planet died, and they couldn't escape either." Zhang Yi touched his nose, but didn't feel particularly sad. A civilization can exist for hundreds of millions of years. If we let it live that long, it would probably have lived long enough by then. Perhaps Martian civilization also chose to end itself and return to the ether. Zhang Yi thought to himself with a touch of wicked humor. All right, forget about all that crap. Anyway, his eyes shone brightly. Excavating ruins is a good thing. Let's keep up the good work. Now, in addition to mining veins, we also need to search for valuable technological artifacts left behind by the Martians. With a wave of his hand, Zhang Yi spread the news, and the entire construction team's morale immediately soared. The Mechanical Legion on the surface continued digging. Over the next day, several more similar ruins were unearthed at different coordinates. Some are semicircular energy chambers. Some are rows of metal columns that look like some kind of integrated computing device, and there is also a very obvious dormant chamber cluster. Those dormant chambers have all weathered away, with no biological residue inside, only a layer of dried paper-like traces. When these things are put together, they illustrate one fact: there really was a highly advanced civilization on Mars, and it wasn't a scattered phenomenon, but a systematic one. The problem is, Yang Xinxin frowned, how could such a high-level civilization have absolutely no records? Didn't you see it in Earth's historical records? Have you seen this in the Lunarian records? Zhang Yi thought for a moment and shook his head. No, unless they were deliberately erased. Or perhaps their existence was the kind that shouldn't be remembered at all. Just as they were discussing these things, another team working on the other side of the canyon sent back a message with a completely different atmosphere. "We have discovered human remains." The voice on the communicator was usually calm, but this time it was noticeably more subdued. "The number is small. It should be part of the Mars exploration team from back then. Please take a look, Your Excellency." The video feed came back. It was a slope half buried by wind and sand. 5 or 6 corpses dressed in old-fashioned spacesuits lay there in strange positions. Some were trying to climb back, some were looking back in terror, and one even covered his head, as if to protect himself from something falling from above. Chapter 2584, Remains 2. Those bodies belonged to the first settlers to land on Mars. They were pioneers, great and worthy of respect. However, at this point, all that remained of them were their shriveled corpses. Most of the helmets worn by these Martian colonists were damaged. The Martian winds dried and blackened their faces, their facial muscles clenched and pressed against their bones, yet the terror of their impending death remained frozen in time. That expression, Fatty Sue got goosebumps on his arms looking at it. It's like seeing something from the 18th level of hell, let alone the 18th floor. Zhang Yi watched for a while, then said in a low voice, "If there really is a hell on Earth, they would definitely want to go back there." Dying on a lonely, cold alien planet, unable to return to their homeland, perhaps only in their dying moments will they yearn for the planet where they grew up. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the hand of one of the corpses. It's pointing in the direction of their base. This means they haven't gone far. They were forced out by something. But why didn't they run towards the base? Fatty Sue also found it strange. Isn't the first reaction of someone being chased to run to the nearest shelter? This means they felt the base was more dangerous. Zhang Yi had the bodies collected and sent to the spaceship's temporary inspection bay for examination. While cleaning one of the spacesuits, technicians found a metal tag with a name on it in the chest compartment. It has a name written on it. Evan Stick. Evan Stitch. Zhang Yi read it aloud. Colombians. It's very likely that he was a scientific advisor brought by Freeman. Luke Heron took the metal plate and, upon closer inspection, discovered that it was actually a data recording board. The record board wasn't encrypted, probably because he was afraid that if it were encrypted, others wouldn't be able to open it, so he simply used the most primitive recording method. Luke Heron connects the sign to a smart device and turns it on. Inside were paragraphs of text, all dated 20 years ago. It was clearly a piece of his Martian diary. On July 3, 2035, we successfully landed and arrived at the Martian origin. The base construction work is progressing smoothly. On July 17, 2035, the water source ice layer was successfully mined and the content was encouraging. Mr. Freeman was very pleased. On August 2, 2035, the first storm hit, damaging some of our outer equipment, but the core base remained intact. The first few points are all normal, similar to what they saw in the materials. But after August 12th, the entire style of the record changed. On August 12th, 2035, the night storm was bigger than we expected. Some people said they heard a roar coming from underground, but I didn't hear it. On August 13th, 2035, Jonathan said he saw a beautiful woman waving at him outside the base, but there was a violent storm outside the base. I suspected he had a mental problem, so I gave him a sleeping pill that night. On the night of August 13th, 2035, we lost one man, Bob. He opened the outer door at 2 a.m. and went out. We haven't been able to find him since. On August 14th, 2035, Mr. Freeman said that those strange things were illusions of energy that remained locally on Mars and that we shouldn't be nervous. However, he was very excited, as if he had found something he longed for. On August 15th, 2035, we discovered a fissure at the bottom of the canyon that leads underground. That fissure is alive. It blows hot air out every day. I don't like it. Upon seeing this, Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin exchanged a glance. This is not like a typical Mars exploration diary, Zhang Yi said softly. He continued scrolling down. On August 16th, 2035, Mr. Freeman asked us to build a drilling rig that went down into Mars. He said there might be energy mines native to Mars. He rejected our objections, saying, "We came here for our second home, not to grow vegetables." On August 18th, 2035, our drilling reached a very hard layer, like metal, but unlike any metal we know. Mr. Freeman was very happy and said, "We've found the door." On the night of August 18th, 2035, the storm came again. This time I heard voices, whispers, many people talking or like prayers. On August 19th, 2035, our door opened, and we found ourselves opening the gates of hell. Zhang Yi and the others watched quietly, seemingly able to sense that the person recording was trembling at that moment. "Is there more to come?" Yang Xinxin asked. "Have." Zhang Yi flipped to the back. On the night of August 25th, 2035, something crawled out from below. It didn't look like an animal or a robot. I couldn't see it clearly. I only saw its shadows distorted like fog. On August 29th, 2035, James said he saw his mother waving at him. He ran out, and we never found him again. On September 21st, 2035, some people said it was a beautiful woman. Some said it was a monster from hell. We said different things, but we were all terrified. On September 22nd, 2035, Mr. Freeman said this indicated that there were intelligent beings below, and that we were the first people to truly find the soul of Mars, and we should be happy. He also said that we should keep digging down to meet them. As I write this, the words begin to fall apart. On October 4th, 2035, Claire died. She was bitten, dragged away by something, but I couldn't see it. I only saw a hand. A hand that reached out from the shadow. October 5th, 2035. The underground is hell. The underground of Mars is hell. We shouldn't have opened the door. We shouldn't have come. The last one is October 14th, 2035. If anyone sees this text, please don't dig any further. This is not a second home, but a place to keep them locked up. Mr. Freeman is wrong. He's gone mad. He keeps laughing and saying that it was all part of his plan. He says, I can finally talk to real higher beings. He went down with a few men and weapons. He said if we didn't go with him, we would stay up there to provide backup. I don't know if I'll survive until rescue. If not, please tell the people on Earth that there's life beneath Mars. It can talk, it can lure you, it can devour you. That's where the diary ends. The entire ship fell into a brief silence. Even Zhang-Yi, who had seen many outrageous scenes, remained silent for a few seconds. It looks too much like a scene from a horror movie. Fatty Sue shuddered. If one beautiful woman after another knocks on your window at night, who can stop that? Here ends today's chapter. I hope you liked it. Kindly do also subscribe to my gaming channel. I have to Fina a way to survive. Thanks.
Alright, that's it for today's chapter. Tell me in the comments which part you enjoyed the most. If you love manga style stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe the Buzz Play Manga. See you in the next chapter with more surprises. Thank you.